Thumbnail and title might be total YouTube clickbait, but there will be some actual information in this, I swear. As always, if you like this video, please hit like, subscribe, the bell, all the other YouTube nonsense. Comment and like down below as well if you have any other questions. Let's get started. Number 1, you don't know how to properly tune your guitar, or you don't bother to tune your guitar ever. Ugh. Even a well-made guitar like this Taylor that I have here will go out of tune. Just the change in atmospheric pressure or temperature or humidity will make a huge difference on your guitar. Just because you tuned your guitar earlier in the day before you went into your guitar lesson doesn't mean you don't need to then tune it up again real quick before you get started. Make sure you always use a tuner. Don't tune your guitar just to itself. Depending on how well your guitar is intonated, either using a 5th fret method to check tuning or harmonics might not be as accurate as using a tuner. So make sure you use a tuner every time you're going to get in tune. The only other thing you need to keep track of when you're tuning your instrument is make sure that you always go from flat up to pitch. So what I mean by that is, let's say your E string is a little sharp. I just made it out of tune. We don't want to just loosen it and stop when it's in tune with each other, because what'll happen is your nut is designed to grip and hold your string, and now there's sort of some slack in there that if I bend the string or pick real hard, there's a good chance your string's going to slip and it's going to go flat out of tune, and then you're going to sound terrible. So make sure you always tune from below. So if you're sharp, I've got to go looser, so now I'm out of tune flat, and then make it tighter gradually, just like that. Try to move your tuner nice and smooth and stop right when you hear the beating or the waves stop. Or again, you should be using a tuner right when it hits the middle and the light goes green. Number 2. This is as basic as it possibly gets. It's about how you fret on the guitar. So basic fretting technique on the guitar is we want to put our finger up slightly higher just behind the upper fret wire. In other words, we've got 2 fret wires that create the space. We want to cheat our finger up so it's just behind that fret. That'll get a note to ring out nice and clear, in tune. There'll be no buzz, and most importantly, especially if you're a beginner, you're not going to have to press as hard, so your fingers won't hurt as much. Also, try to avoid your finger bending backwards. You want to think arched up and athletic, almost like a sprinter would run with your fingers. So notice how each one of my fingers was landing in that upper part of each fret, not in the middle, and definitely not in the back. You will find as you learn more chords that you will have to break our little fretting rule in order to be able to play multiple strings at the same time. Like with this A minor chord, my middle finger isn't in the exact perfect place. And there are some times where we want your fingers to bend backwards, like if we're playing a bar chord. But when you're just getting started, focus on playing simple single note riffs and scales and work on getting those notes to ring out nice and clear and in tune. In other words, just learn how to make the guitar sound nice. Number 3, you don't know how to play with a metronome and you can't play in time. In music, there's 2 different aspects that you have to keep track of. You need to be able to play good notes, and you also need to have good rhythm or good timing. Same way that there's no real good way to tune your guitar but to use a tuner, there's really only one great way to practice your rhythm or your timing, which is to start playing along with a metronome. There's plenty of different free metronome apps that you can download, and there's ones that you can pay for that have a little extra features to them, which are pretty cool. A great way just to get started practicing with a metronome is pull up a tempo that's nice and steady and learn to just play along quarter notes, or in other words, on top of each click that you hear. I'm going to play an A minor pentatonic scale, and I'm just going to play right along with my metronome. Learning to play along with a metronome is deceivingly challenging, and it's going to take a long time for you to learn how to listen to the metronome and not either go too fast or rush or go too slow and drag. The first thing you want to do is just try to work on being as much of a robot as you possibly can. In other words, play right on top of the click. The trick with this is you need to almost have the sound of the metronome start to blend with the attack of your guitar. In other words, you have to play in a way where you almost can't hear the metronome, and that's how you know you're directly on top of it. Later on, after you've been playing longer, you can make stylistic choices. In other words, we don't always want to be a robot right on top of the click. There's certain times where you might want to rush and get a little bit in front of the beat, or drag and be a little behind the beat. And those are all stylistic choices that you can play around with and have a lot of fun with. But until you have the ability to play right on top of the click, you're not going to really be able to do that with any accuracy. Number 4, learn the note names on your guitar. At the very least, every single one of my students learns how to navigate up and down the neck on the 6th and the 5th strings. Now, the reason why I choose those strings instead of most beginner guitar books on the 1st and 2nd strings is that this doesn't help you learn to play any songs that you hear on the radio. It's great if you want to play Mary Had a Little Lamb, but it's not going to help you learn your favorite tune. This is going to be important because it's going to help you locate bar chords. Now, for most beginner to intermediate guitar players, bar chords are pretty challenging, and that's okay. It's going to take some time and some practice and patience to get it going on. By learning those note names, you'll be able to locate a bar chord of a major and minor, 2 different versions of it, and then basically be able to play any chord. So now if you see F sharp minor, you don't have to be scared. You just find an F sharp note, plug in that minor bar chord, and you're there. So with note names, we just need to establish where the half steps are located. In other words, where we're just going to move 1 fret. And they're going to be specifically from the note E to F and B to C. Every other naturally occurring note, or like the white keys on the piano, you're going to move 2 steps or a whole step. So E to F, we move 1 fret, B to C, we move 1 fret. So if your 6th string starts from an E, you go up 1 fret to F, up 2 frets to G, up 2 frets to A, up 2 frets to B, up 1 fret to C, 2 to D, 2 to E. And that's usually where I have all my students stop. We go from open up to 12, and then you go backwards. E, D, C, half step to B, A, G, F, half step to E. Then you just do your 5th string. A, B, half step to C, D, E, half step to F, G, A, and backwards. A, G, F, half step, E, D, C, half step, B, and A. And last, number 5. You hardly know any scales and don't understand when and where to use them. Even if your goals on the guitar are just to be strumming along with your favorite songs, you do need to work on scales. This is going to help you with your hand strength, your dexterity, and ultimately it's going to make you a better, well-rounded musician. At the very least, I teach all of my students the 5 minor pentatonic box shapes and the 5 blues scale shapes, and then learn how to use those in both major and minor. The great thing about being able to play guitar when you're just getting started is we can rely on just the shapes to help us move around and start to learn songs and have fun. That would be my recommendation at the bare minimum. Memorize those basically 10 different shapes and learn how to change from major to minor. One quick way of getting that to happen, everybody knows box number 1. A minor. You also have a C major pentatonic scale built in there. In other words, if I start from my pinky on the 6th string and play just to 5th fret on the 3rd string, that will be a C major pentatonic scale. So there's basically 2 different scales in that one position that you already know. It's just a matter of learning how to get them to flip around. So the trick for minor pentatonic is you put your pointer finger on the root note and then you just play box number 1, and that's a minor. So let's say you're in G minor. You find a G note, E, F, G, and then you just play box 1. For major, all we need to do is put our pinky on the root note and then play like you're starting from the 2nd note. So what I mean by that is, let's say we need D major pentatonic. We find a D note, E, whole step back is D. You put your pinky there. Now we're almost thinking like it's B minor pentatonic, but we want to start and end around the note D. So that's a great way just to get you started to be able to play in any key that is either major or minor. So those are 5 great practical things that you can do to improve your guitar playing. They're all basic musicianship skills, and it's easy to kind of lose them along the way, especially if you're focusing on just kind of learning songs and trying to have fun. The more you can be mindful of these little details, it's really going to make you sound so much better. Any other thoughts, comments, or questions, please leave them in the comments down below. I love hearing from everybody. If you think I'm an idiot, also post that. That's fun. I love being trolled. So thanks again for watching this video.